Witches, wizards, and muggles. Such an honour it is to welcome you to Rennervate, a Harry Potter TCG revival podcast with your host, Doug, Mona, and Emilio.
Thank you for that, Dobby. We appreciate you. My name is Mona Morsi. I am one of the co-hosts of Rennervate, a Harry Potter TCG revival podcast. Welcome. I am here with the other co-hosts.
Doug Coleman. I'm also here today with the other co-host,
Emilio Soto.
I guess this way.
Yes. Yeah, I know, right?
Welcome back, everybody. It's good to be back. How's everyone doing?
It's hot here.
Emilio was saying the same thing.
Warm.
I hear it.
Yeah.
We're in the midst of summer. Hope everyone's having a good summer. But yeah, tonight we're talking about Adventures at Hogwarts, the expansion set. Very excited about this one particularly because this and Chamber of Secrets is where I get into territory where there's a lot of cards I'm missing or don't even have. So it's going to be excited to go over those with you guys and see what kind of interactions these cards have with one another.
Definitely.
Yeah, me too. Adventures at Hogwarts is definitely, I would say, like my favorite. I love the box, the cards, so I'm super stoked about this.
Definitely. Oh man, that's one thing we typically do on these episodes is right before we dive into the current expansion, we do our top 5 from the last. Did you guys prepare for that? I forgot.
Yeah.
I also forgot, but we can also potentially.
I was gonna say we could do a recap on the next episode, and that's the thing. We could cover this and Adventures. Let's do it that way because this way we can kind of just dive right into Adventures at Hogwarts.
Let's do it.
Yeah, sorry about that, listener. Hope you weren't excited to hear about our top 5.
Yeah.
That'll come soon, I promise.
Yeah.
But let's see. We're gonna go card by card. It looks like there's 80 in this expansion set. Obviously, 5 of those being lesson cards. But who wants to start this one off? We can get a rotation going.
Emilio Soto.
Sure, I'll start because it's my favorite card anyway. So.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, also one of my favorite sets, or my favorite set, because it was just a surprise. You know, like Wizards of the Coast was in this age. They were not doing much of a promotion for their sets. Same was happening with things like Neopets and other card games, Maple Story. So, you know, one day I just walked in and I was used to Quidditch and base and all this. Oh, wait, now there's a new set. And so this just has a very, you know, a bunch of value for me. And also the candy, which we'll talk about.
All right.
So
Yeah.
with that small thing, let's start with my first card. Well, the set's first card is Albus Dumbledore. You know, the gay man himself, and he's a unique character. He has the funniest flavor text on any Harry Potter card because it's just a bunch of titles there. But you know, Hogwarts headmaster, and as a headmaster, he is able to play the most powerful spells for less. So if you have at least 4 lessons in play, all spells that cost 6 or more, and it has to be a printed cost of 6, right? Will cost 2 less power to play. So this is a really nice card to, for example, for me, when I use Albus Dumbledore, makes Gringotts Vault Key cost only 4, which is great. And it has other card interactions because since it's printed power, if you're lowering the cast of your spells with other cards, let's say like Bravado, it still gets the boost from Dumbledore. So it's really sort of overpowered when you build around it. So really cool card. Do you guys have any particular decks you build with it?
Big sigh for me. I don't own a copy of this card. It's something I probably should just print a proxy of to just mess around with it. But that's the thing. I'm very much the guy that's like, unless I don't have it, I don't really build around it. But no, I do want to print one of these out just because of how powerful that ability is. But yeah, not having one is sad. But that being said, recently, maybe some of our listeners were there. I, on my Twitch channel, opened a box of a booster box for Diagon Alley. We also intend on doing that with an Adventures at Hogwarts box. And I have fingers crossed we're going to pull an Albus Dumbledore, hollow or not. We just need a to Albus Dumbledore. Would be great.
Right.
But that's something listeners can look forward to. But yeah, so I don't have Albus, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's great for Quidditch for sure.
Oh, sure. I could definitely.
You'll make a great deck when you have one.
Yeah.
Just imagine him flying around on a broom too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I played against somebody who had a Quidditch deck starting with Albus Dumbledore, and I didn't realize at first, like I didn't have like any judgment on it at all. Actually, I was like, oh, that's really cool. I never thought of that. And then as we were going, I was like, I see. And
Totally.
as I'm just losing and taking all this hit, I'm like, that's dope. That's definitely a deck that I'm gonna build for sure. So yeah, starting Albus Dumbledore with the Quidditch deck is something that people should dive into 100%.
Totally.
He does it all, and also it was my first card, my first rare card from this set. My first pack had a mirror foil Dumbledore.
That is
so I think
beautiful.
Wow.
helped with the hype and the importance of this set in my mind.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
He's
who
just
has our
such.
squib? Oh, sorry.
Oh, nice. So I was just gonna say that he's such an important character either way that if you don't even play with him, it's dope. So.
Very good. Well, I guess that leads us to our next character. I'll read this one because I have a little bit of background with this card particularly. It's our next character. It's Argus Filch. You may use an action to discard an adventure from play, yours or your opponent's. You don't get the reward. So just discard an adventure. No rewards given. Not really a powerful ability in my mind. Maybe somebody has a use for this, but the reason I have any association with this card is when I was revisiting the Harry Potter trading card game and being like, oh, let me go find my collection, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I know 100% I have an Argus Filch. And I couldn't find that card for the life of me. So I don't know if like in my childhood I lost that one specific card. But yeah, I don't have any Argus Filch either. God, I can't wait to open that box.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Argus Fish is actually, for me, it's one of the most, definitely most powerful cards in the set because it is sort of like, it is sort of the McGonagall effect, but you can do it multiple times. Game,
oh, right.
It's really sad that it's not a wizard. We all know he's a squib. He has no magic.
Right.
I know.
I should have mentioned that.
Poor
Good
Argy.
point.
This as a wizard would be redonkulous. And, the Lannisters send their regards for those of you that know the connection of who plays Argus Filch with the Game of Thrones franchise.
That's pretty good. But no, that just goes to show how like a card to me that I didn't really see any value in is pretty important in this set. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. It's definitely just to kind of like go piggyback off of Emilio. It is a really powerful card in that sense, especially when you are able to just like get it out as like insurance, if you will, or sort of like security, knowing that if somebody plays something like a Caught by Snape or whatever, where you cannot play a card like a spell card or something that gets rid of an adventure, you at least have this sort of like flying car, really, just kind of like that, just having that there. Argus Filch is also a card that's in like the character decks that some people have built. I think it was the Dark Mark that put the character deck on their website, which is a really good website, by the way, for those that don't know. The Dark Mark TCG, I believe, is what it is.
Nice.
Yeah, they have some really good like decks, and then like some articles there that they talk about different cards. But they have the character deck where Argus Filch is in it. I built a deck off of that. I changed a few things just because I didn't have cards that they listed.
Sure.
But Argus Filch definitely comes in handy when you've got an adventure that's played against you, because it just, some of these adventures are so brutal that you just don't want to solve them. You're like, I would rather not. So
right.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so that leads us to the next one, which is Crab and Goyle. They are wizards, and Slytherin, of course. And it says you may use an action and discard 2 cards from your hand to do 3 damage to your opponent. Recently I started, I have a deck where I start with Crab and Goyle, and I sort of got like the inspiration to do it playing with a friend of mine, because they had many Caught by Snape. And if I can't do anything with my cards anyway, because I'm locked down, I might as well get rid of some to continue to do damage. So having Crab and Goyle's ability when you're locked down anyway, because inevitably people are going to play with Caught by Snape or some of these other cards that just don't let you do anything. And so to be able to get rid of some cards that you wouldn't use anyway because of that, and then being able to do damage all the while is actually really helpful.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's flavorful. They're bullies. Like they're just going to do damage to you like that.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. I need to experiment with that more. I feel like, especially if you were building a deck that's like very multicolor for any reason, and it's like, oh, I don't have these lessons in play, I could get rid of these cards because they don't mean anything to me yet because I haven't pulled the lesson. Like stuff like that, I could really benefit you with doing damage. So that would be fun to play with.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate the art for this card, but
Yeah.
Fair.
I've never thought about this card, to be honest. It was just so very meh. So it's
Right.
really interesting that Mona brought up that cool little deck idea.
You definitely.
That brings me to the next card
Mhm.
because I don't want to talk more about Carbon Girl. And that is the Detention Adventure, which we have the fabulous McGonagall just posing here. Uh,
Yep.
and this adventure, your opponent can't use any any actions to play adventure cards. And to solve, your opponent chooses 2 adventures from their hand and discards them. Then they draw a card as a reward. I actually like this card a lot because I do dislike adventures. So if I'm gonna have an adventure, why not have an adventure that doesn't let you play adventures?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Adventures for your adventures. So
Yeah.
it's really,
Exactly.
really the meme of we've got adventures for your adventures. So yeah, really, really cool card. I like it a lot, and yeah, I had forgotten about it. It's not just revisiting it. I would definitely add it to some decks if I want
Me
to troll
too.
people,
Yeah.
like people that I'm not gonna mention or look at that play caught by Snape or stuff like that. That
I don't know
Monty,
who those
go on,
people
Yeah,
are.
I'm not sure who he's talking about. No, but that's fun. No, I really need to throw that in my decks, especially if I do any more tournament play. Good God.
So
But
yeah, but
Good.
pretty simple, right? Very
yeah,
Oh,
straightforward card.
I
true
guess
that.
that brings us to our next one, which is our first spell card. It's Dragon's Blood, which I guess should be a potion anyway, or a
Let's
poison. I'm
not
not
get
really sure.
into that. Let's just
Yeah,
not.
agreed.
Don't
Yeah, I was
start.
gonna say,
Don't try to
please.
trigger me.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I've
you're right.
forgotten about it. You bring it up again. It's just malicious.
It costs
That's funny.
7 potion lessons, and to play this card, discard 2 of your potion lessons from play, do 11 damage to your opponent or to a creature of your choice. 11 is nothing to sneeze at, and with a cost of 7, that's not terrible. But yeah, again, it's something Mona doesn't like, discarding lessons from
Yeah.
I
play.
hate
You're
it.
just triggering
Yeah.
both of us, though.
I
Yeah, I
know.
know,
Like,
That's what you want
double.
to
yeah, this card right here is just
do.
triggering
This is the one
so
that ends the
much.
podcast. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Dragon's Blood, you're canceled. No, okay. So yeah,
Uh,
really cool card. Yeah.
Mhm.
I love the art. I actually love, I love potions growing up, like in general. I've talked about, I used to make like potions, air quotes for
mm.
those that are only listening. So I love this card. Still not an item, but
Oh,
we've talked enough about that.
Sure. Yeah, no,
yeah.
11 damage is nice.
It is, and I need to sort of like build some more decks and just kind of get into the thought process of having these potions where you just get rid of lessons,
Yes.
because there's also I want to say it's if is it Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, or it's a certain location, and I could be wrong on which one, but instead of actually discarding it, it
Potions
returns to your
Dungeon.
hand.
Potions Dungeon.
Potions
Yep.
Dungeon. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so that card is really helpful that I realized.
Love
It's
it.
kind of like Hagrid's house, right? Like the
Exactly.
same sort of thing. And so once I came across that, I was like, all right, because I've been experimenting more with decks and some of these cards that I've like shied away from.
Right.
Just trying to build decks for the league. And so this was one of them that had this in it. And I was like, all right, well, let me try. And it's really not too bad. I still don't love it, but if I could return it to my hand, it's a lot better than discarding it, right? So
Definitely. And if you're
yeah.
playing like Hermione or something, you could put both right
Yes.
back. It's there's some crazy loops there in potions. Like I really potions doesn't get enough love sometimes, I feel, and it's a really interesting lesson type for sure.
And with
100%.
Dumbledore, right? The headmaster of the
Mm-hmm.
set, like it costs only 5. So
Oh my God, yeah.
Yes, exactly. God, look at us just building these brutal decks right
Killing
now.
it. We're
Just
giving
yeah.
all the insider info. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But I think this one's Mona's.
Yes. All right. So we got now an item, Dumbledore's Watch. It costs 9 transfiguration. Let's see what it does. If this card is in play before your turn, discard all cards other than your starting character from play.
it's a
Interesting.
board wipe.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. It is a unique one, so you can't have multiple of these in play. I personally haven't played with this card. It just hasn't been one that's like sort of come up in my radar as one. But it's not that I wouldn't. It just wasn't that. And I think Invisibility Cloak is another item that I just have never really played with. It's just one
Right.
of those. It's like So what do you guys think about this card?
I
Really
love
high
this card.
cost. Yeah.
But I love this card. I think this
Oh
is one
wow.
of the cards that I remember. I don't remember what deck runs it, but there's a way to make this work. You know, it is obviously you can't have an item or creature adventure. You can't have a deck based on things that stay forever, right? But it is really good against decks that rely too much on adventures or characters or creatures because you're removing everything, and you can have 3 of this in your deck and just it doesn't matter that it's unique because you just need
Right.
one, discard
Right,
it,
exactly.
replay
Right.
the other one. So for me, it's a great card. Even the cost, it's worth it. It's a full board wipe, So I love this card a lot, and I like items in general, right? So this is one of my
Right.
favorite ones for sure.
So you've had this card and you've used it.
Yeah.
So when you use it, is it just like you're playing against like a really brutal like creature deck, for
Primarily
example?
creatures, yeah.
Okay, creatures, gotcha.
or another item deck.
Yeah, I can imagine
Yeah.
like someone playing you with potions and stacking cauldrons, or you can only have
Yes.
one wand, for instance, or one broom, for instance. But like cauldrons, you could have as many as you want, and that would be nice to just take that out.
Yeah, because I think the one card that reminds me like this ability that's been helpful is Professor Quirrell.
Yeah.
So like, just getting rid of all the creatures or items, right? And so that's been really helpful when I'm playing against somebody who has a really brutal creature deck. And so I'm just like, well, let's just get rid of all of them. So I could definitely see from that perspective why that'd be helpful.
But I
for sure.
forget, like, isn't Quirrell to the hand or he discards? I always.
I think it's discard.
I think it's discard as well, but I could be wrong.
I don't remember. I just don't remember. But yeah, board wipes in any game are really useful, right? So this is hard. I think this is the only like everything board wipe. As Mona mentioned, there's of course Quirrell that bounces or destroys. I guess discards. That's what people remember. There's spiders, something that from Chamber of Secrets that bounces all creatures.
Yeah, the Exodus.
Table disaster, something.
Oh yeah, table trouble. Yep.
Items.
Yep.
But this is the only board wipe that just hits everything. So
I see.
Okay, so sorry guys, I looked it up just so that we didn't get our listeners confused. Professor Quirrell reads, once per game, you may return all creatures and items to their opponents to their owner's hands.
Okay.
So it doesn't discard it. It does, yeah. Which is still, especially if they're playing something like Fluffy or something where you like Unicorn, where you've got to get rid of a lesson. So to return it, to their hand is kind of a pain in the ass. So
yeah, no, good correction on that. I guess that takes us to our next card.
Yeah, and that's on me, right?
I think so. Yep.
And that's we have the End of Year Feast, 4 cost charm spell, and you put 4 adventure cards from your discard pile into your hand. So of course, really powerful if you're running Fred and George or any sort of adventure heavy deck, or if you're an evil monster that runs 4 caught by Snape and you want more caught by Snapes. So more and more. And
who the hell could that be?
Yeah, I'm wondering.
It's disgusting.
But they are just really interesting. The Great Hall has the Gryffindor banner since Dumbledore is committed to making Gryffindor win no matter.
Yo, straight up, dude. That dude is favoritism all the way, but
they should just leave it there, And very basic, simple card recovery. You've been dueling, you've been hit a few times. Key adventure cards have been discarded. You can return them with this. Even if you only return 2 or 1 adventure card, it can be worth it if your deck really needs it. So really surprised that Harry Potter had this sort of huge number on cards that in the feast, that returning like 4 cards from your grave.
Yeah,
that's something that you don't see in most games. Like in Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, like at most you return 1. And it's so really powerful effects, but the game is really small, so it makes sense.
Right.
But with the cost of 4, that's where it makes me think like you said on a previous episode, like whoever's doing research and development, like how do you get like this card costs X and it does this much damage, but it's like backwards in the other sense. Like in this sense, like 4 to take back 4 from a graveyard, like that's very powerful. I would have at least expected it to cost like 8 or something, but I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean, especially with its partner card, if you want to call it that, with it's the Halloween feast, and it allows you to get 4 lessons, right? And so at that point, you're just like that's saving you, to some degree. But yeah, really good card.
Definitely.
So that one's for creatures. The Halloween feast is for creatures.
That's right.
the end of year is the this one for adventure and this one for lessons that I forget.
Start of term and end of
Start
term,
of term.
maybe.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, start of
Yeah.
term. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, sorry.
Nope, it's all good. Well, that takes us to our next card. It's a creature. It's a dog, unique. It's Fang. And oh
Fang.
man, I like Fang in the books, but man, I don't know about this dog. He looks very intimidating. Anyway, to play this card, discard one of your card magical creature lessons from play. When you play this card, do 4 damage to your opponent. I love when creatures do that, like the insta damage as you lay it down. But his damage each turn is 4 and his health is 7. So yeah, unique. You can only play one Fang at a time, but very cool card.
Yeah, discarding only one to do 4 damage immediately is actually pretty decent, and then 4 damage each turn. I personally haven't played Fang, but I would. Fang seems to be. He's kind of pricey because I think there are a couple other creatures that either do like 3 damage or 4 damage, and they cost like half of that. But either way,
Yeah,
pretty
8
good.
is a little much, but like we've said at the start of this episode, if you're starting with Albus Dumbledore, none of that matters.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, not for creatures, but yeah.
Sure.
For spells, but definitely, it has a lot of health, so it can withstand a little bit. So yeah, I think a part of the research and development of these cards is that they're taking way too much into account the health when there's cards that just discard creatures, right? So the health shouldn't be that big of a, in my judgment, shouldn't be that big of a deal for the cost because you have so many ways to get rid of creatures.
Yeah.
But it looks like that's where the team was heading, right? Like, oh, it has a lot of health. Let's make it more expensive.
I see. Yep.
Maybe. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So, Mona, do you want to talk to us about slamming into a wall?
Yes, slamming into a wall. It is finding the platform. This is an adventure, and the effect is your opponent can't use actions to play location cards. To solve it, your opponent lets you search your deck. You may take up to 2 location cards from your deck, show it to your opponent, and then put it into your hand, and then shuffle. The reward is your opponent may put a lesson card from his or her. Your opponent may put a lesson card from his or her hand into play.
Yeah.
Okay. I think if you're gonna play this card, it's probably because you really needed a location, and you just really have to hope that your opponent not being able to play a location matters to them because sometimes it doesn't. They're like, all right, well, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Or if you want to play a location, half the time it might help me out anyway if we're playing something similar, right? So like you playing like Wand Shop, please go get that Wand Shop so I don't have to use an action to play that and I'm still going to benefit type of thing. So
yeah, I want to add this to my owl decks now because I really need that Ilops Owl Emporium, or else like the owls are just so fragile. And I'm sure if I go up against someone that needs Potions Dungeon, they're not going to like that adventure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's sort of like you have to ensure that whatever it is that your opponent's playing, that them not being able to play locations matters. So
pretty unique adventure.
Yeah, and that's why like it's important. We always remind our listeners like that you design decks. If you want to play with others, I would just design 2 decks that are evenly matched or that have cool interactions. Like 2 decks that maybe run this adventure and also have a location that is important, right? So you can both play it. And it's kind of flavorful. It's kind of like double standard card. It's like you can't play locations, but I want to get locations. So it is like Mona's saying, like, why are you assuming that the other person will want to play locations? So yeah, interesting, right?
Definitely.
Definitely, we can move on to our next card. One of my favorite cards in the set is the Galleon. I love Wizard Money.
Hell yeah!
Yes.
I love it since I had the board game. There's a board game that came with like plastic Wizard Money.
What?
Like with the same design of this illustration.
That is awesome.
Was expired after the movies, like changing into like normal coins with some dragons, right? So definitely I like this money. It looks very magical, and like in real life, if you have lots of money, you can do more things. So the Galleon costs 10 because it's the biggest coin. It's a gold coin. You play it, and then you can only play 1 money per turn. And basically what it does is that at the start of your next turn, before your next turn, sorry, not at the start. My thing was, Before your turn, you can discard it if it's in play, of course, and you get 3 more actions. There you go. So yeah, I mean, you get 3 actions. That means that you can potentially do a combo to finish up your opponent. So if you're gonna get 3 actions, you better have some use to them. We know that we have the better monies in this set, in my opinion, because if you're running Draco Malfoy Slytherin with the items, right? The one that gives the extra action with the items, then you can really benefit from money, but you just have to be careful of what you're using those actions for. There's also the revival card, the Draco's father, Lucius.
Oh yeah.
If you have 5 or more actions in a turn, you search a card in your deck. Is that what it does? Something like that?
I'm not sure.
It gets benefits from when you have 5 or more actions in one turn.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously,
that's right.
Related Malfoys to money. So yeah, really cool card. I would run maybe 1 or 2 when I run it. Not many, right? Like it's something that you don't unless you're building around it. Maybe if you have like a one-shot kind of deck and you want those extra actions quickly, then maybe. But I haven't done that. But I still like the card a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, I do have a deck that is very heavy with wizard money. So I've got like galleons and sickles and all that in there. And it's because of exactly what you said, Emilio, with the wand shop. And so the whole purpose of that deck is to get the Venomous Tentacular Juice and Dobby's Help combo out. Yeah. Because they're so expensive, you've got the wand shop that helps with that. But because you want to ensure that it's going to make an impact to your opponent, like I've got quite a few copies of both Dobby's Help and Venomous Tentacular Juice in there. And so having a galleon is good because you can play like 3 Dobby's Help and 1 Venomous type thing, all in one turn, which is 4 actions. And it's kind of obviously pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, it is expensive, but you could even do that with just a sickle, which costs less than that. So
exactly.
It looks cooler. I love the sickle.
Yeah.
Now we have a card that Doug actually have a lot of experience with.
Oh yeah, a Great Hall. It's a location unique. When you play this card, discard any other location from play, yours or your opponent's. But before each player's turn, he or she draws a card. And yeah, I pulled a holographic one of these. It was very nice.
Nice.
Yeah, felt very good. But yeah, as far as this location though, I'm not sure. I'm not really running this in decks, but it is a nice little resource builder early on. And again, this is one of those, it's just going to benefit your opponent just as much as it benefits you. So might speed up the game a little bit, but I'm not jumping at the bit to play this card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, same. I know that there's already times where like I feel like if I draw a card, I'm kind of like doing myself like a disservice because I have nothing else to do. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely am not in a hurry to get that out, but it's a great card, of course. And
definitely artwork's fantastic too.
Oh yeah.
And the next one, actually Mona brought up earlier, so it's fitting. It's yours.
Yes, it is Hagrid's house, which is a location. You can only have one location out, which I think we talked about in a different episode where Emilio, you mentioned that you should be able to have a couple of locations at the same time, which like
each player.
Yeah, each player should be able to. Yeah. So what Hagrid's house does is whenever a Care Magical Creatures lesson is discarded from play, put it into its owner's hand. And that's yours or your opponent's. So if you're playing Fang, for example, and you got to discard 1, instead of putting it in your discard pile, you put it in your hand, which is good because then you could play that again the next turn. So
definitely. Yeah, I love this card. I play it in many of my creatures decks. I try to slip it in there. As many copies of I have as many that I have are in decks. So it's a very used card.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, all those cards are very similar. It's like Quidditch pitch,
dungeon,
yeah.
This thing. So yeah, cards if you don't want to discard. So yeah,
pretty nice.
Then we can move to the next card, which is Harry Triumphant. The character, unique wizard, if you didn't know. And of course, at the end of each of your turns, if you played an adventure card, you can draw up to 4 cards. So really interesting, right? Like, so if you play an adventure, you draw 4 cards. So it's replenishing your resources, but it's also hurting you in terms of damage-ish. I like this card. I haven't really built on it. but just visiting it, I like it. I would say it's a deck that doesn't run many adventures, so it's like you get that boost when you need it. It's like an adventure cautionary adventure deck, I would say.
Yeah.
Or if you're running a combo, right, and you need to just get your combo pieces fast out, like I said, the Snuffing Potion and the Borrow, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Like you don't really care if you're drawing cards, because as soon as you get your combo out, you can potentially win the game. So who cares, right?
Right.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, interesting.
Totally.
Yep. I've never played with Harry Triumphant, but seems like it'd be good.
Yeah, me neither. And I'm gonna maybe have to that's the nice thing about this podcast, revisiting certain cards. It does make me want to get out of my comfort zone and just play with these cards. There's some really cool stuff going on here.
100%, exactly.
That leads us to our next location, which is Hospital Dormitory. It costs 7 potion power, and it reads, each turn, each player may prevent 4 damage done to him or her. The damage may be prevented from 1 or more cards. Interesting. So yeah, very powerful location, but the problem there is I feel like it's going to really elongate the game because it's just going to prevent damage for both players. So it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, that is true, especially if you're playing against somebody who's got a potion deck, because that's always helpful. I mean, a lot of the potion cards are so brutal, like we read earlier with that 11 damage.
Yep.
I mean, so just being able to kind of like get rid of any amount of that is always good. So
yeah, I have played with this in the past, but usually I feel like I might have multiple locations, and I might be, it's probably Potions Dungeon realistically. And if I have like both in my hand, I'm putting Potions Dungeon down over this, but it's all depends on the strategy and the current situation you're in.
Right. Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Yep.
All right. Is this me? Hut on the Rock?
Yep. I think
You're in
so.
the rock. Yep.
Cool. So it's an adventure, and it says play this card only if you have at least 5 lessons in play. So the effect is before each of your opponent's turns, if he or she has any cards in play, he or she chooses one of them and discards it. To solve it, your opponent discards his or her hand, and the reward is that you take 5 damage. So I don't like that. Like I wouldn't play. I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
Unless I got Hospital Dormitory in there and I'm only taking 1 damage, but still,
right.
I mean,
no.
It's a very powerful adventure. You can definitely build around it. Like I had this deck. It was with the Forbidden Corridor, Hot on the Rock, and I think this was one that I ran with Draco Malfoy. I'm trying to remember, because you can get a lot of cheap items out that you can discard, but your opponent probably does not have that strategy, right? So while you're discarding like cheap items, they're discarding their lessons and stuff like that. So
right,
locking them down to not have anything, and you have everything basically, because you are just like playing cheap items like the books and getting more actions and money. So it could be a really brutal card. I never understood the flavor other than for the mechanic, right? You have 5 lessons, so you can guarantee that it goes on for a while. But it is like a horrible location to be at, right? We've seen it and read it in the book. So yeah,
like you said, you're like getting locked down. You're literally on an island with all this like treacherous water all around you. I don't know. Maybe that's the flavor.
Yeah, maybe, right.
But all right, I think that leads us to our next character though.
And that's on me?
Yeah, I think so.
And that's Madame Pomfrey, and here we have her. Looking very different from the movies.
Yes.
Very, very different. And basically the opposite. And basically once per turn, you can shuffle up to 12 non-healing cards from your discard pile into your deck. So it's a once per turn, so it's not consuming actions, if I remember correctly. You get some healing, and you can use it as a starting character because she's a witch. It's a very good secondary or helping character because of the healing. Or if for whatever reason your deck needs that healing on command, then it's a good starting character. But it really depends on how your deck is built. Really cool card, healing because she's a nurse. So very basic flavor there, and not much else to say about it.
Yeah, definitely one of those cards that just kind of like continues it's like if you use this or you use multiple, then the game is just everlasting. Like it's just one of those that's just like, oh my gosh. I love this card. I have, when I first started playing the game, I did start with Madame Pomfrey as like my starting character almost always. It was just like either Madame Pomfrey or Severus Snape or whatever. But just because I liked the idea of being able to like replenish my deck, right? So definitely one of those. And I would say that in most of my decks I try to have at least a copy of Madame Pomfrey. Just always good.
I try to run her in almost all of my Quidditch decks just because of how rare of an instance it is to heal in Quidditch outside of like a Slytherin match and stuff. So yeah, it's
for sure.
Good to have her in there for sure.
Yep.
That leads us to our next adventure, which is Meeting Fluffy, and it reads, well, first, we got to admire that artwork. This one is unique because it's a promo, and the promo is super cool because it's got, instead of the word promo in the bottom right, it says launch on it. Maybe Mona could elaborate more on that.
Yeah, well, the only thing that I really know about it is just that it was, like, it came in this sort of, like, sealed. I just recently got my hands on one actually, and it was sealed in a way that not a lot of other promos were. I don't really know why it says launch on it, but I'll definitely do some more research. I don't know what they were launching. Maybe it was the launch of the Adventures at Hogwarts set.
I wonder. Okay.
And that was sort of like, that was just because like Emilio said earlier, like they didn't really do a whole lot to kind of talk about this particular set. And so that was sort of like their way of doing it. And so either way, dope card.
It really is. I love that little unique aspect to it, that it's the only real like launch promo card.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
For background, like Wizards does this with all their other games, Magic and even like Neopets, like they start to adopt this launch promo, which will be given to stores holding the product, either for an event launching the product or just the first people, whatever amount of the cards that were given, that bought a box or some booster packs.
Oh, that's awesome.
This was one of the first iterations of that. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's cool. But as for the actual adventure itself, it reads, play this card only if you have at least 9 lessons in play. Good God.
Yeah, that's unreal.
Effect: before each of your turns, your opponent takes 12 damage. Fluffy isn't fucking around. To solve, your opponent lets you choose 3 of his or her cards in play and discard them. Your opponent's reward is your opponent gets 1 more action the turn he or she solves this adventure. So, yikes. Big yikes all around. I've never played this. I've never encountered it. I've been up against it, probably because I'm too nice to myself and my wife to not put ourselves through this. But again, 9 lessons in play. I don't know. There's plenty of cards that are even higher cost than 9 that have somehow maybe got it to work out. So I could see this happening, but man, you have to be evil. And it is just a game ender, it feels like.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I guess, similar to its character, to its creature Fluffy. Fluffy does 12 damage, and so it's just sort of like kind of in line with that, which is just ridiculous. I mean, it is unreal. And now that's another card that I used to play in pretty much all of my character and all of my creature decks back in the day, when I was just like, I want to just do the most damage as possible. But playing Fluffy is also kind of a pain because you have to get rid of a few. So I forget how many to. But
2.
Because I haven't. It's 2. Because I haven't played it.
It might be 3, or that might be Willow. I forget.
But because I haven't played it in a while, because I'm just like, well, whatever. Like, it's so expensive. But this is just absolutely brutal. And before we continue, just looking back at my guide, because I have written down sort of some things about the promo cards.
Oh yeah.
So what I have here, it says that for the foil Meeting Fluffy, it came out in June of 2002 for the Adventures at Hogwarts game day tournament.
Oh,
and
nice.
So it's hard for me because I was never at any of these events, so like for those of you like Emilio and other listeners who were, it's really awesome because you can kind of recall those times, whereas like people like me who weren't, we're just sort of like looking through history books to kind of see what's up. And so I kind of have like this thing that I just pulled up where it sort of helped me during some of the videos that I was doing before about the knowledge on the promos, and that's what I got. So 2002 is when it came out.
Yeah, nice. Definitely check out that video, listeners, on Into the Flu YouTube. It's a fantastic resource. But yeah, that card's beautiful to behold. The promo, especially, it's holographic and everything, just fantastic. But we can move on.
Yeah, and just before we move on, we
Oh,
have
sure.
to sacrifice 3 cards, and I'm guessing that's 1 for each head of Fluffy. Just a
Oh,
nice.
nice.
There it is.
Dang, that
I like
flavor right
that.
there, though. Yep, that flavor. All right, sweet. So the next one we've got is another adventure, Midnight Duel. Okay, so it says play this card only if you have at least 5 lessons in play. So another one of the 5. And the effect is to use an action to play a creature or spell card from his or her hand. Your opponent must discard another card from his or her hand. And then to solve it, your opponent chooses 4 of his or her cards in play and discards them. And the reward is that your opponent may draw 4 cards. So I'm assuming it's 4 and 4, 1 for each character, maybe. That's in the art of this one. For those of you that are watching, you could see the art there. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty nice. I like the fact that you got to get rid of a card either way. But I haven't really played this often. Whenever I want an opponent to get rid of a card, I always just play Garden Gnome or something similar to that. But
right. Yeah, I don't have too much experience with this adventure myself, but I do like it. I might have to experiment with it. How about you, Emilio?
Yeah, no, not particularly interested. It's I can see the potential for it. You're doing a lot of damage, to your opponent. Discarding resources are basically 4 damage in the terms of draw, right? So yeah, really cool. But yeah, I haven't really built on anything around it. But we can talk about something I did build around once, and that's the Mirror of Desire of
Yes.
said yes.
So the Mirror of Desire is a unique item, cost only 10 transfiguration, very cheap. And then it's like the perfect tutor. So you can use an action, you discard the mirror, and then you can you can return all the cards in your hand, right? Like you discard them. Yeah. Then you search your deck for that same amount of cards and place it into your hand. So you discard your hand, you discard the 5 cards, then you search for 5 cards in your deck, and that becomes your hand. So, it plays on the mirror, giving you anything you desire. That's the name. And just very costly artifact item. But, if you're running something like Mr. Weasley, you can discard it, hits for 10. You can also just have, if you're using like a lot of items that are high cost, this is the deck I had was with Dumbledore's Office from Chamber of Secrets and a bunch of items, just because I wanted to play like expensive items. So I really like the card. Of course, it gets you any combo from your deck. If you have healed before it, before you use its ability, then you're sure that you will get your combo out. But of course, it's 10, so very late game kind of thing.
Right. I was going to say, this reminds me, I was like, is this the same thing as color changing ink from the previous set? But I just pulled it up. No, that one, you take the cards that from your hand and put it at the bottom of your deck rather than discarding them. So, but even
and you
that
don't
is
search
only
for anything with color changing ink. So here with everything,
yes.
you search for any cards.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
that makes sense why it's expensive then. Because color changing ink only costs 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like he was saying that it's obviously the Mirror of Erised. You spelled Erised backwards. It's desire, so you get whatever cards you wish for to get that combination. So yeah, it's definitely a really really unique card. One that hasn't really come up on my radar, but definitely worth it. I mean, especially if you're if you kind of have the ability to somehow play cards for less, type thing. So. Like if you've got charms and transfiguration, then maybe you can kind of get this out. Or like you said, Emilio, if you're playing with Arthur Weasley and you just get some damage in before you get the card that you want, that's always helpful too.
Totally. Well, that'll bring us to our next character card. It's a ghost, actually, unique. It's Peeves, the Poltergeist. Once per game, you may discard your hand and then draw 7 cards. To make your opponent discard his or her hand and then draw 7 cards. So interesting character. You can't start as Peeves, but interesting I'm sure in a character deck it would make sense. I haven't encountered this. I don't think I own a copy of Peeves, so that is probably why.
Yeah, really powerful card. It's really nice to be able to damage your opponent for 7, basically. You replenish your hand as well. it's a ghost, and it's the most controversial character, I think, in the Harry Potter series because it
Sure.
wasn't included in the movies, and it's like sort of important in the books.
Yeah.
So, what about you, Mona? Where do you use Peeves?
Yeah, for Peeves, I have a couple copies of Peeves in that character deck I referenced earlier. It's just sort of it has been helpful for me, but even though I play him, I don't use his ability as often. But I have before, and it's definitely been helpful, especially like you said, just kind of doing that extra damage to your opponent too, is helpful too. So, yeah, and that is a good point. It is sort of I guess controversial because like why not include him? I mean, we can go on for ages about like what they didn't include in the movies, but he does play some pretty critical roles for sure. So
totally interesting choice, or interesting omission rather.
And now you get the jelly mess, Mona. What about the jelly mess?
Yeah, the jelly mess. Okay, Philosopher's Stone is an item. It's healing. It's expensive. It costs 15. And it says, you may use 2 actions to discard this card from play to put all lesson cards from your discard pile into play. Then shuffle all non-healing cards from your discard pile into your deck. When you build your deck, you can only put 1 Philosopher's Stone in it. So,
this card's nuts.
Yeah, it is nuts, but I also am like, okay, if you've got 15 to play it, then what exactly are you needing all those extra lessons for from your discard pile?
I've okay, so that's the funny thing about it. I've only practically ever got it in play once, and it is so funny because it was very late in the game. I did the healing where like basically everything but my healing cards are now in my discard pile, and all lessons that were in my discard pile are now in play. I had like 30 odd lessons or something at that point. So at that point, it is overkill for sure. But the idea really is just to heal all of the cards that were in your discard pile. It's just like there's no way at that point I think you could possibly lose. It would be interesting unless someone pulled like their last card was like the Snuffling Potion Burrow or something. It would be nuts.
Yeah,
well, they should revisit so Doug has the game on his channel, right?
Yes, it should be available as a VOD.
It was recorded, and I think he almost lost.
It was close
after playing it. So you don't know.
I almost don't even think I should have been able to play it. My wife was just like, I want to see what you have in store, because she probably had some card in her hand that she could have totally stopped me dead in my tracks. But she was like, "No, let's see what actually happens."
You should all check that out. That video. It's a really fun game. But Mona, you were saying, sorry.
Oh no, I'm just like, because I haven't played Philosopher's Stone, and anytime I've ever come across it to just like see if it's worth putting in my deck, I'm always stuck on that one part, because I'm like, well, wait, like, because what's the most expensive card in the Harry Potter TCG if it's not going to cost 15? Like, this has to be one of the most expensive.
I think it is the most expensive.
It is. Okay, so if there were a card that were more expensive than this, then I would understand getting your lessons out and putting them in play, or not in play, but hoping to put some more in play. But because of how expensive this is, you can play anything if you have this many lessons. That's why I guess I'm just like, so I do understand the healing part for like, non-healing cards, etc. That I get.
I think I now understand the flavor of it, though, for you, Mona, is the Philosopher's Stone and the Elixir of Life. That's literally giving you all your health and stuff back, but it's also giving you the knowledge of like true alchemy and everything. Like, you were able to create the Elixir of Life, something all these alchemists have strived for. So I think that's the idea of putting all those lessons into play. Is like, you're a genius. Like,
right.
Well, mechanically, there's another reason, right? Like, when you're using this card, you want to make sure that when you'll draw forward after using this card will be spells. So like, if you were to heal all your lessons, you would have dead draws with lessons. That's the point of healing your lessons. You're removing the lessons from going back to your deck.
Yeah, the probability of drawing a lesson.
And at the same time, you're putting if you have a deck of discarding lessons, then you'll have more to discard at that point. Of course, this is like, as you all say, it's a very late game card, but the design is pretty legit, right? Like, if you will only draw spells basically, or mostly if you don't have lessons in your deck, and then you can just play them, and you'll have all the resources. But it is very late game. It is weird. And it looks like a mess. So
it does.
Yeah. That does make sense. Yeah, maybe I'll just have to try to like build a deck around hoping for this, and then I'll just sort of see how it plays, because until I do that, I don't know if I'll you guys both make great points and it makes sense, but like for me to actually play it and experience what you said, I've got to just put it in the deck. So
makes sense.
Cool.
Very good. Well,
So
I
now
think
we have
that's
Potions Dungeon.
Yes, we've brought this up already. Tell us about it, Emilio.
So it's just, it's another one of those locations that recycles lessons. It costs 3, it's Potions Dungeon, and this one's for potions. So every time you discard potion lessons, they go to your hand instead. So, we have all these potions like Dragon Bloods is the most recent that we've discussed, that discard lessons and do damage, and this returns them. So if you're playing Hermione Granger, for example, from the first expansion, you get to just, return with one action, you put 2 of the lessons back. So it's a safety thing for those potions deck. And also Dog has a few games recorded that he uses the Potions Dungeon in the Absolute Silent, almost better than Silence podcast. Sorry.
Yes, it was. I definitely used the Dungeons in a couple loops on that channel. So definitely check that out if you want to see how to do that yourself, or just play yourself. You'll figure it out. The next card, though, is Quidditch Cup. This one's kind of pricey, too. 9 Quidditch power. It is an item. It is unique. It's pretty and shiny as well. Once during each of your turns, when you use an action to play a card that needs Quidditch power, you get 1 more action that turn. I don't know why I'm not playing this card in my Quidditch decks. I probably should. It's so pretty nice. Yeah, but yeah, I think that's what's scaring me away is that 9 cost. A lot of things, like if I'm lucky to even get up to 9 to play like my Nimbus 2001 broom, like that rarely ever happens, let alone something like this. So, but again, if I'm starting off a Quidditch deck as Albus Dumbledore, things might be a little easier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this is an item though. I always forget you say that's for spells specifically.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I do like Quidditch Cup. I've had Quidditch Cup in a couple Quidditch decks. It definitely comes in handy, but like you say, it's kind of expensive. But just sort of like one of those things. But more actions is really important, in this game. So yeah, it definitely evens it out.
It does reminds me of when if you ever gone to a Thai restaurant. Thai restaurant bring you the rice in like this silverish like little base. It does look like that rice pot.
Right.
Nice.
If you've eaten, you've seen it. So the beautiful card. And this reminds me why I love this set. I just love big items.
Oh yeah.
The stone, the mirror, this thing. I just love items in general. So now it's
yes, now we've got another location, which is another very helpful card for your Quidditch deck. It's called Quidditch Pitch. We did mention it earlier. Spell cards that need Quidditch power need 2 less power to play. And it says you still need at least 1 power that matches. So you need at least one to play that Quidditch card. So this is extremely helpful, especially if you've got this as well as Albus Dumbledore as your starting character. It can definitely come in handy, and just really good overall. This is one of those cards that, like, if you're gonna have a Quidditch deck, you should probably have a Quidditch Pitch in it.
Definitely, yeah, very handy location.
Yeah.
And it's so low cost. It's like easy to get into play early on. I love this location.
And it's very helpful. Yeah. True that.
Well, let's move on with unfair cards, I guess. So
it's one of my favorites, and it's unfair.
I mean, I love the card. It's still fair for the cost for what it does, right? It's kind of crazy. But I think the assumption here is obvious. The designers of the game knew Quidditch was overpowered, and I think a location like this allows everyone that's playing Quidditch just to get a benefit. So yeah, that's great. But then we'll move on from Quidditch. The most powerful magic in Harry Potter world is Quidditch. I don't know how I feel about that. And then we go to an adventure, which is riding the centaur. Harry's riding a big, muscly centaur. Happy Pride, everyone. This picture is very sort of erotic. I don't know.
That's right. Yeah.
That horse is buff.
Yeah,
we don't shame kinks in this podcast, but it's really interesting picture. Moving on from that, it's an adventure. As I said, the effect is that it prevents all damage done by your opponent's creatures. Whoa! So that that center is Daddy. He's protecting you from other creatures. And then to solve, your opponent chooses 4 of his or her cards in play, which is kind of disgusting, and returns them to their hand, so it's not as bad. And your opponent your opponent's reward is that they draw a card. So Daddy Center, he flies you away, moves you away from the harms of creature with his big manly chest and arms. But then your opponent can return things to their hand, and apparently Daddy gets tired and goes away. So very, very, very interesting card. I think Mona uses this card, if I'm not mistaken.
I love this card. Yes, I definitely use this often. It's definitely in like all of my creature decks, or even like Transfiguration, because oftentimes whatever, it just comes in handy if I end up playing against a creature deck. And just, I mean, even though they're not discarding those 4 cards, just returning them to their hand like we mentioned earlier is also a pain in the ass, because you got to make sure you have those lessons to put them back, or whatever the case is. So I love this card. So you just see them like stacking up creatures and they're not doing anything to you. It's like you can put all those owls and gargoyles if you want, but I'm just chilling here.
So that is
love it. That's a great card. The art's fantastic. Absolutely loved it. This is actually one I feel like I pulled as a kid when I had an Adventures at Hogwarts pack at one point, and I was like, man, this is a great card.
100%.
Oh.
That leads us to our next character, though. It is Ron the Brave, Gryffindor unique. At the end of each of your turns, if you played an adventure card that turn, you may search your deck. You may take a character card from your deck, show it to your opponent, and then put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So kind of like other Ron, where you could play a character with 1 action rather than 2. He's very oriented around getting characters. Not sure. I guess we talked about it previously, where it's like he is Harry's best friend, so he's got all the connections there, I suppose.
Yeah, I know, Mona, you have your character deck, which I think is with the other Ron, right? The Ron that makes cost 1. But does this come in handy in a character deck?
It does, but the problem is, you can't have
one Ron.
You know what I mean? And so it would, but you couldn't play. So like unless I started with this one instead. But I do start with the other Ron, because like you said, Emilio, you can just get one out with 1 action instead of playing with both actions. But yeah, I think when I first was like messing around with putting different cards in that character deck, I did put Ron, and then I was like, wait, I can't do that. And so it does kind of, but
that artwork
is also something that Wizard has changed in all the recent games. As long as the cards are differently named, it doesn't matter. Play them, which once again does make sense when you have a small card pool. For those of you listening, if you're playing at home, you can make your own home rules. So
totally.
And I hate this card with a passion, because I am stupid and I ordered like 4 times trying to get the mirror foil version. Ordered the Chamber of Secrets one. So I kept getting, I kept ordering the wrong one. I kept getting all this. Oh, let me put it back. Wait, this is not the card. It turned out great, because now those are expensive, right? But back then I was just, I don't understand. There was something in my mind that switched Ron the Brave for whatever the other Ron is, youngest brother, I think, or something like that. And it's just a bad memory. Also, it's a horrible. I don't understand what was going on. It looks like Alejandro music video from Lady Gaga. The guys are dancing with the little bowl cuts.
Yep.
I don't understand.
Also, what's going on with Scabbers? I can't even really make heads or tails of him. I see his tail.
It's the butt. The butt is in the front, and I don't understand either.
Kim Graham's like clay sort of figures. They're all really interesting. Like I love Madame Pomfrey.
This is clay.
It's basically like clay, and then like there's like a picture taken of it, and that's what was used. I remember somebody discussing it a long time ago, because I myself didn't know a whole lot about it, but essentially it's clay, and they were like for sale or auctioned for I'm sure incredible amounts of money, but they're so rare to get your hands on. And of course I'm sitting there like, where can I find these, right? But but yeah, I mean, so like it really is sort of different, because they look so different from all the other cards, so you're just kind of like, what's the deal with these, And then I finally came across and was like, oh, so that's your talent, Kim. Wow. I mean, that's
really
can't
cool to
appreciate
point out.
the time that must go into creating one of these clay figures.
Oh my gosh.
I've used clay myself. I like to build things with the
Oh,
Sculpey,
cool.
which is
Oh,
the
that's
color
awesome.
clay, and you can do things like this.
Wow.
But really, it's scary.
Oh yeah, like it's just I mean it's unbelievable talent there. But yeah, like you said, I mean it's just like, wait, what? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Ron the
Oh,
Brave, more like Ron the Clay. No, I'm just kidding.
and
Anyway,
Yeah.
we can move on.
A
yeah,
new
we can
meme.
definitely move on. But there's this meme that I just reminded. This reminds me of it says that Fred and George saw Ron sleeping with Scabbers every night in the Marauders map, and they never said anything about it. And
Yes.
it's just like another Pride
Whoa.
Month moment, but a very interesting meme that I think it's hilarious.
That
I
is
did
wow.
I did hear that
That
one
blew my
too.
mind.
Yeah.
They didn't care about Ron. They weren't checking on him. So
Literally
that's
never.
why.
Not
But
even
we
makes
can
sense.
move
once.
on to the slug disgusting thing here.
Ooh, yikes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is Stout Sandwiches.
Yep.
And the effect is it's an adventure, and it says your opponent can't use actions to play healing cards. So they wouldn't be able to play that Madame Pomfrey if they wanted to. To solve it, your opponent chooses 5 of his or her cards in play and discards them. And then the reward is your opponent may shuffle up to 5 non-healing cards from his or her discard pile into his or her deck. So this is just another one where you kind of have to like make sure that it's going to affect your opponent somehow. Because the last thing you want to do is just have an adventure in play that doesn't affect your opponent, and there's no other way to really get rid of it, because some people don't really play a lot of healing cards, so there's a couple potion cards that are healing. Snape is healing, Madame Pomfrey is healing. But you kind of have to make sure that this is actually going to affect them. And yeah, so I haven't played it personally.
Yeah, me neither, but that makes sense though. I might have to try it.
So little that I thought it said slog sandwiches. That's how little attention I've paid to this card.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it looks pretty gross, I'll be honest. Look at that artwork. Doesn't look appetizing at all.
Right. Yeah, and Hermione's face is like, get this away from me.
Definitely. And like Emilio said, like when you're building decks, build the decks to like go head to head. Like I have plenty of healing decks, so I feel like I should put this in a deck that's going to go head to head with that and see how they handle it. They will not be happy.
Right.
But that leads us to our next character. It's the Fat Lady, Gryffindor unique. She's not a witch because I guess she's a portrait. Yeah. Anyway, you may use an action to search your deck. You may take a Gryffindor card from your deck, show it to your opponent, and put it in your hand, then shuffle your deck. So it's gonna get you a card you want, but it's specifically a Gryffindor card. So not terrible. I like this in my Dip It deck with the revival card Armando Dip It, because he's all about tribal decks with the houses and stuff. So when I play her as a character, if I have Ron, the base set Ron in play, I can play her for 1 action, get a Gryffindor, play, and maybe do something else with that other additional action. But even just by playing her, it costs as a Gryffindor card that I've played, and I can activate Armando's ability. So yeah, this is a interesting card, but again, very specific use case.
Yeah, like if you're building your tribal deck, to be like just Gryffindor, then having, like you said, Armando Dip It, and then this, or whatever other starting character you wish, but then having Fat Lady in there so that it can, kind of help you out. So
yeah, if all the only ally characters you have in there happen to be Gryffindor, maybe you throw Fat Lady in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think that if you start with Ron and you get Fat Lady out, then you can search for Hermione or Harry in the list, right? Like which are, you can have the option to play 2 lessons or play 2 lessons for an action, draw 2 cards for an action, and play any character for 1 action. That's that's a lot of power right there with the trio there.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
Very flavorful idea for a deck. All right, now I think that takes us to our next adventure, which is
it's mine or mine?
Yes, I think that's you.
Voldemort revealed.
Okay, so we have Voldemort revealed, and here we see an art that is revealing of the Harry Potter art planning, because we see a huge shin on Voldemort here behind Quirrell's head. We don't know how that's not seen in the turbine, but yeah, it happens. We just assume it's magic because it's Harry Potter. And the effect of this adventure is that your opponent can't use actions to play spell cards. So, like Privet Drive sort of vibes. And in this case, it's because you're terrified because Voldemort is in front of you. And to solve, your opponent takes 7 damage. And as a reward, your opponent may put up to 2 non-healing cards from his or her discard pile to the bottom of their deck. So they heal 2. So they take, in net, they take 5 damage, right? And if they don't take the 5 damage, they can't play spell. So that's pretty intense.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a good person, so I would never use this card.
Right.
So let's go to someone that may have experience. So Mona, have you ever, and how many times or how many decks have this card?
Every single deck has this card. No,
4 copies.
5 copies.
Yeah, exactly.
Like one.
I just have. I actually start off with this one. I just forget about having characters. I start off with
There
the
you go.
adventure.
There you go.
But for a card with Voldemort in the title, I feel like it's appropriately brutal. Like, this is not fun.
7 Horcruxes, 7
Yeah.
damage.
Yep.
Foreshadowing.
That flavor though.
Awesome.
Yep. And that chin.
No, but in all
100%.
seriousness, have you all used this card?
I have. You totally
I
called
was
it.
joking,
Yeah.
but you have disappointed me once again. It's good that we're not in proximity. I would slap you. But let's just where do you use this card, Mona? Just tell us. With Fred and George or other decks?
It is in Fred and George, and it's also in a couple other decks. I have, the Fred and George deck for sure, and it's helpful. Like, it is what it is, Like, I want you to take that 7 damage. I want it, and you usually do. So it just helps. It works out.
I feel like we got out of our rotation. I don't know where exactly, but I'll take this next one and then we'll get back to it. But Welsh Green Dragon is one of my favorite cards. Only costs 7 Kara Magical Creature Lesson power. And it reads, to play this card, discard 2 of your Kara Magical Creature Lessons from play. When you play this card, do 6 damage to your opponent. Again, insta damage. Love it. And then, the damage each turn is 6 and health of 4. So, yikes, though. Health of 4 for a dragon, that sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but that damage, like, to have 6 damage right when you play it, and then if you have Hagrid's House in there, and it doesn't actually discard it, but returns the lessons to your hand, that's dope.
Yeah.
I have had this
Steel
played
Claw.
against me, and I hate it. Yeah.
Steel Claw too,
Steel Claw. Yep.
You do 12 damage with this on the first turn if you just have a Steel Claw, which is crazy. And this was one of the dragons from the tournament of the fire thing.
Goblet of Fire. Yeah.
Goblet of Fire.
Yes.
I really forgot the name.
Yeah, we'll edit that part out.
Nah, you should keep
No,
it.
I'm just joking.
That's the lady, the girl's dragon. Anyways, we can move on to your favorite character, Mona.
Oh, yes, one of them for sure. 5 points from Gryffindor. It is an adventure. To play this card, you must have at least 5 lessons in play. So it's all this 5/5/5. The effect is your opponent gets 1 fewer action on each of his or her turns. If this would mean, so it says, even the turn the adventure is solved, this would mean that your opponent has fewer than 1 action, and he or she still gets 1 action. So if you played like a spell or something that said you get 1 action in the turn before, then they still at least get 1 with this.
Right.
To solve it, your opponent chooses 5 cards from his or her hand and discards them, and then your opponent's reward is that you take 5 damage. So definitely sucks for sure. Cool thing about this one is that it also comes in a foil promo, this one specifically, and I guess it was in select bookstores that the promo itself was given out for the Goblet of Fire paperback release.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's pretty cool. And it also came in with a insert, and I think it's the black insert that was actually pretty unique. I didn't see it often, and it's like a black card, and it has like the Harry Potter TCG on it, and then it says, what does it say? I'll pull it out and then I'll but it's it was pretty cool. It definitely has a foil version of this for the promo. So
very cool. That's fun.
It has Snape lecturing Harry and Ron. Basically.
Yeah, I was gonna say that artwork. I love the frown on Ron's face. It's just so like, oh, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Find the magic in you. Sorry. Find the magic in you is
yes,
what it says. Yeah. Yeah.
So now we have a spell that we all know and love. It's Alohomora, cost 4 charms. The art is very basic. There's a door being open with a wand that's shining. And it lets you search your deck for a location of adventure that goes to your hand. So this is a tutor spell. Pretty cool. Like tutoring is always good. So if you're playing Dumbledore, then it doesn't really matter. That it would run Gringotts Vault Key since it's worth 4 with Dumbledore. But in other decks, I guess that this would be a good tutor. I haven't used it myself. And I have, growing up, I stared at many doors trying to use this spell to unlock them. It never worked. But sometimes I had my sister open the door and I would pretend it did.
Nice.
Oh,
that's
nice.
good.
Very cool.
That's a good sister.
And this comes as a promo too. It's one of the most expensive or rare promos in Italian, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's one of those, it's like, I don't know, it's like approaching like 50,000 or something. So it's either like that or a house, whichever one you prefer. Yeah, but definitely definitely a unique one.
Yeah, one of the promos I'm missing for sure. That one and the 5 points from Gryffindor. But all right, that leads us to our next potion. This is Baneberry Potion, costs 3 potion power. It's a spell, obviously. To play this card, discard 2 of your potion lessons. I'm triggering you both again. What's up with this?
Yes.
Do 8 damage to your opponent or to a creature of your choice. So this is Dragon Blood Light, apparently. But it's still, you have to discard 2. That sucks.
Yeah, that does.
But it costs only 3, so I think that's why.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, 8
I guess,
damage and the option, pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, it could be used like at the beginning of play where you just want to straight up do some damage, or if you have like sometimes like me, like I'm playing against my opponent that just loves to get rid of my lessons, and so they'll like discard lesson after lesson. And so if this is one of the ones that you've got left, then hopefully it can be like a game ender. It's not a lot, but it is a lot, but it's not a lot compared to like Dragon's Blood or something like that. But 8 damage sucks. So
definitely.
Yeah.
So we have another Dark Arts card.
Yeah, so next would be a spell.
Yeah.
Bludger Bop. And it's Quidditch. So it says your opponent chooses one of his or her cards in play and discards it. Then if he or she has any cards in his or her hand, he or she chooses one of them and discards it. That's one of the things about Quidditch cards is like it's always yeah. Yeah. It's always like it does this and this, you know, so it's like it does 5 damage, and if your opponent has any cards, you know what I mean? It's like always something just because of how brutal it is. And so of course that goes with the flavor because it's the game that keeps on giving.
Yes.
Nah, the flavor Quidditch is that R&D was like someone in R&D was a Quidditch fan. I think that's the
100%.
only like, real flavor there.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Nah. It's true. Like the flexibility of the game of Quidditch. I do think that that's sort of the flavor of these cards being able to do different things because it's like a quick thinking kind of game.
Yeah, true that.
Right?
True that.
And now we move to one of my favorite adventures is Candy Card.
Yes, same.
I mean, because of the art and the name. So, you know, to play this, you have to have 3 lessons in play. Then, before each of your opponent's turn, he or she draws 3 cards, and then they choose 3 cards in their hands and discard them. So they're taking 3 damage and discarding 3 cards from their hand. So, you know, net, they're not really drawing cards, but they are refreshing the types of cards they have. So like if you had like a huge card of candies and choosing what you want to buy, apparently you try them here too. And the thing is that to solve, your opponent takes 10 damage, and then your opponent draws an extra card because that's nice, right? So you draw 3 cards because of this card's effect. This card, then you take 10 damage. To solve it, and then you take 1 more damage and in the effect of drawing a card.
Yeah.
So really balanced in my opinion, because you are really like you're refreshing your resources, but you are taking a lot of damage, right? So you have to, I would immediately solve this card unless I have a combo piece and it's a huge chunk of the deck. So really powerful.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Someone, you run 5 in what deck?
I actually have a deck that's nothing but candy card. There's 60 candy card, and I didn't actually just start with McGonagall. Or
That sounds right
or
up
Madame
Emilio's
Pomfrey,
alley.
where I'm just able to just continue pulling them out.
That makes sense. Yeah.
That's gonna be the thing, listener. The day we finally play each other and you guys are tuning in live, she'll be playing the candy cart deck and I'll be playing a lesson deck, and it's just nothing but lessons. And then you guys are gonna be like,
Oh my
"How does this game
God.
work again?"
I'll just have a deck with eat slugs.
There we go. Killing yourself the whole
Doug
time.
is gonna have 45 lessons in his deck.
I need them all. But all right, let's move on to our first cauldron of this set. It's collapsible cauldron. It costs 6 potion power. It's an item. It provides 3 potion power, and it reads: to play this card, discard one of your potion lessons from play. If this card is discarded from play, put it in your hand. So the collapsible aspect of this card, I suppose, is if this gets discarded by your opponent, it goes right back to your hand. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely good. I do like the potion items or any of the items that actually provide like some power. So that's always nice to have for sure.
Yeah. And again, cauldron stack. So if you have multiple, get them out there.
True that. All right, so next we've got flying motorbike. We've got some Hagrid action on a flying motorbike. That is a magical bike there to hold that kind of weight.
Yeah.
And then little baby Harry in his arms. It's transfiguration spell. It costs 3. Choose an adventure or a location in play and discard it. So if the adventure allows you to play spells, then you're good to go with this one, and you can discard it. Or a location if you think that it might do a little bit too much for your opponent or something, then this is always handy for you to just kind of get rid of your opponent's cards that they've played. So not too bad.
You just escape with Hagrid, like in the last movie, right? When they punch the gas. And
Exactly.
so cool.
No.
So really basic, simple card, really cool, right? Really flavorful.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that, and now we have flying practice and adventure. And you have, Harry grabbing his big old broom and Hermione being jealous. And the adventure reads as effect: spell cards that need Quidditch power. Use up to 2 of your opponent's action instead of 1. Oh, I didn't know this card exists. I will run this card against Doug. Yeah.
Yeah, geez.
So your opponent discards 4 cards that need Quidditch power from their hand. And then the reward is that you get 2 damage. So really, this is a hateful card for a hateful spell type that deserves the hate.
Yeah,
so
no, I feel like
perfect.
It balances out a little bit. Like I could see, this would be nice to put in against some of the Quidditch decks I have built. So like if I encounter this, it is gonna suck getting solving it, but I would rather solve it than deal with that effect. Good God.
Yeah, definitely. I wish there was a card that turned all your opponent's card into Quidditch identity or something like that. In addition to the other types, like that's in other games, just to be able to trap them in this kind of loop. So really, really cool. Ooh, one of my favorite cards is coming up now, Doug. So
yes, our next one is a location. It's unique and it's Forbidden Corridor. Look at that art for Fluffy. That is intimidating. And I'm pretty sure there's alternate artwork, which we'll talk about shortly. But before each player's turn, he or she chooses one of his or her cards in play and discards it. At the end of each player's turn, if he or she has no lessons in play, discard this card. So yeah, you're slowly just depleting everything in play. Both of you,
100%.
one each turn. So that is interesting. You'd have to be sadistic to play this location. I know Emilio says it's his favorite. I've never played this because I don't like the idea of losing my own lessons. It's like I feel like you're just setting yourself backwards, and it's because you're in a location you shouldn't be in.
Yeah, this is this is one that I really haven't played a lot, but you were right about, so the promo is like an alternate art.
That's right.
Which I do have here.
Nice.
So it's kind of like it's actually a really popular art that we've seen like on some of the older games and stuff. I think Emilio, when you were growing up, you've seen this probably often with the puzzles and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you've got the trio and Neville there kind of facing off to Fluffy. So really, really cool alternate art promo, but the card itself, I don't run often. Emilio, you like it though?
I love this card. And for our listeners that are just listening and not watching, of course, Mona did not just pull the card. She pulled the card sealed in whatever it came in. So I just want to make clear that, she is very special and she has a great collection.
She's
Harry
official.
Harry Potter League 2002 of September is when these came out.
You can hear the plastic being done away with as time has progressed. But yeah, so
I love these guys.
I kind of lost the train of thought, but yes, I do
good.
play this card. As I said, in other games, in Magic the Gathering, I play black and white. And one of my favorite strategies is actually a strategy that most people hate, and it's called stacks. And that means that you are limiting everyone's resources. So then you need cards that pump out your resources more so that you can be in a better position. So I like this type of decks. Of course, locations are very flimsy in Harry Potter, sadly, because of the silly ruling that there can only be one in play. But yeah, if you have this, once again, if you have Draco Malfoy, you're playing lots of items that are cheap, and you are basically out-resourcing your opponent. If they're not playing lots of cards, then either they're sacrificing their creatures or items or characters, or they end up with no lessons.
Yeah.
So really brutal card.
Definitely. And Mona's got our next creature. Some of these next cards get pretty straightforward, but I like this one.
Yeah, so this one's going to be Giant Squid. It costs 10. It's a creature, and it does 5 damage. So it doesn't do anything else but that. It's not like, you do damage right when you play it or anything. Just strictly 5 damage, and its health is 10. It's one of those that, because it's kind of expensive, people sort of shy away from having it in their deck, especially because of how expensive it is with just 5 damage. But use it if you like. And
at least we're not
if
discarding
squids,
lessons. Yeah,
there you go. There's a giant squid for you.
Totally.
And yeah, giant squid is important in Neopets. For those of you that play Neopets, you might know why. But now we can move on to our next card, which is looking for Trevor Adventure. And you have Neville looking at Trevor that has a very weird color that I don't understand. Looks like almost like an alien thing.
Yeah,
you can look up the card in your own time. But the adventure reads that your opponent can't use actions to play creature cards. So that makes sense. You're looking for creatures. You can't have creatures. And to solve, your opponent chooses 2 of his or her lesson cards in play and discards them. So they get back a little bit. And if they're running creature, they might have a low lesson count because they've discarded some maybe. And then your opponent's reward is that your opponent can search his deck, and they may take a creature card from their deck to show it to you and put it into their hands. Then they shuffle their deck. So they get to tutor a creature. So they're looking for the creatures. They can't find them. When they do, they have to discard their lessons, and then they can search for any creature in their deck. I wouldn't play this card, to be really, really honest, because they're allowing your opponent to search for a creature that might be like what they need. I just don't like that. So
right.
I don't think it's worth it. Yeah.
You're initially preventing them from playing creatures, but then they solve it, and then they get the creature of their choice. It's kind of like
that's a serious reward.
Setting them up. Yeah.
That's like the best type of reward that doesn't really benefit you. It like just pauses whatever is going to come from that creature for a little bit, but it's going to come because you're allowing it to. So it's like, nah, I don't think so.
Just delaying the inevitable. Yeah, no thanks.
Right.
And now we have one of Doug's favorite cards. So
I do love this card. I need to build more like gargoyle decks. I think we only have 2 gargoyles available, but this is marble gargoyle. It only costs 5, care magical creature, and it reads: when marble gargoyle does damage to your opponent, if he or she doesn't have any creatures in play, it does 3 more damage to him or her. So that is awesome. But let's say they do have creatures in play. The base damage each turn is 2 and a health of 3. But like we said, if they don't have creatures in play, this guy's doing 5 damage each turn. So it's very handy.
Yeah, I do like the gargoyles, and marble and sandstone, which we'll get to. But yeah, definitely nice.
Super cool.
Yeah, great card. If your opponent doesn't run creatures, or if you have a strong control over the creatures that they play, right? So really nice card.
Okay, so next card is going to be a match. This is going to be Muddy Practice. It costs 1. Matches are fairly inexpensive anyway. So either player may use an action to discard a card from his or her hand to win. Discard 5 cards from your hand in this way, and the prize is the winner does 10 damage to his or her opponent. So I like matches. I think that especially when paired with Catch the Snitch, it's always good. You play it,
Or
and
no hands.
yeah, yep, yeah, this is good. It's a nice one. I personally haven't run. I don't run this particular match, but I like all the matches in general. So
This one's weird to me because I feel like you have to spend an action to play it, and then you might spend your next action to do one of those 5 discards. I feel like I'm not really sure, but I think let's say your opponent then uses both of their actions to do 2. They have a leg up on you if you're going at this match like just every card every action I get, I intend on discarding this way to win this match. It's just too risky and weird. I don't like this match at all compared to all the other matches that are available.
yeah, compared to all the other ones, this definitely isn't top. Like I said, I don't personally play it, but yeah, I'm with you on that, Doug, for sure.
Interesting though, for
Definitely,
sure.
yeah. The 3 year, 3 millennia long match is
Yes.
dead.
Yes, God, that match.
And then we can move to the purple firecrackers, which has Dumbledore celebrating Pride again with
Yes.
sparkles that are purple.
Yeah,
And everyone's
sparkles.
confused because they didn't know he was gay. So now this spell costs 6, and they're like, old people can have sex? Anyways, so like a spell that costs 6. So if you have Dumbledore, it costs 4, right? So he throws his crackers out for the children.
Yep.
And your opponent chooses 3 cards in his or her hands and discard it. So those purple firecrackers are like pack a punch because they're making you forget things. They probably have some sort of drug. I mean, he does look like a hippie. And the main point is that it's a great hand controlled card. Cards like this, I assure you, they do not get printed these days. 3 cards from your opponent's hand, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like this this one. Like you said, it's definitely kind of like control. The same with other cards like Ransacked, where you're just sort of like saying like I'm gonna determine what's going on, and you might not have that many cards in your hand or whatever the case is, but just to get rid of even a few of them is always a pain in the ass. So
I mean, 3 cards, even if your opponent chooses, if this is like game, you'll probably discard your whole hand. It doesn't really matter that they have to choose.
Yeah.
In Yu-Gi-Oh, you have a card called Delinquent Duo that you pay some points, and your opponent discards 2 cards from their hand. You discard 1 at random, they discard 1. That has been banned forever and will never be unbanned. It's just the card advantage that it produces is intense. So I don't know. I would play this card if I was running Draco Malfoy from the first set, right?
Yeah.
That you're also discarding things. So yeah, Dumbledore does it again. Very powerful.
Very powerful card.
So what's the
that
next
takes
one?
us to our next adventure. Yep, this is Running from Filch. Pretty interesting artwork as well, but it reads to play this card only if you have at least 6 lessons in play. The effect is your opponent can't use actions to play lesson cards. To solve, your opponent discards his or her hand, and your opponent's reward is your opponent may draw 3 cards. Pretty basic adventure. Having to cost 6 makes sense for what it is, because if you're like you have to be at least that far into the game to prevent your opponent from playing lesson cards themselves. I don't play it. I don't have too much experience with it, but it's a solid adventure.
Yeah, I run 15 of these in my decks. I'm just joking. Yeah, this is one of those where I've played it a couple times. It's definitely not like my go-to adventure, but I have played it. On your note, Doug, about the art, I hate how like clean cut Filch looks in this.
Right.
I'm like, dude, why do you look like that? Like I want you to look worse than this.
Yes.
Just like the way that he's described, but
I don't think that's Filch.
That's even funnier then.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like it just doesn't
That's
look
Neville.
like
Yeah.
Okay.
So that explains things. That's why he looks so young. It's not Filch.
Yeah, that's why I was like, wait, what? I don't know.
Yeah.
They're all just running from him.
Yeah.
I see.
He got the Lannisters, but he's not getting this character. So yeah, cool card. I'm glad Mona runs it. That means it's sick. I have never. And Mona, now you get to play about more sick cards with the sickle.
Yes, sickle. I love sickle. I play this more than I play Galleon. As far as like the money items go, it costs 7 charms, and it says you can play only 1 money card each turn, which we know. Before your turn, if this card is in play, discard it, and you get 2 more actions this turn. So you could essentially get 4 actions, which is honestly just as good. Sometimes when I play Galleon, for example, like I end up just doing nothing with that extra action. You know, it's just sort of like there's a lot. But Sickle is good because it only costs 7 when compared to the 10 of the Galleon, and you get 2 actions. And so, like you said, actions are just like the best type of currency in this card game. You need it so much, and so this is always good to have if you're running some type of charms. Always good for sure. I have these in I think pretty much every charms deck that I have. So
nice.
Really love sickles for sure.
Yep.
And now we get to another item that is not an item, and that's the star grass salve. I don't know how to say it. Salve?
I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, salve.
So the star grass thing is cost 8. It's a spell, not an item, and it's a healing spell. So you can play it, discard one of your potions lessons, just like Mona loves to do, and you get to heal 12 from your discard pile that are non-healing cards, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I love this card just because just about the art is one also of the cards that was in my first pack. My mother used to have this candle that was also in a star thing, like in a star silver thing. So I used to just borrow that and have it in my room, pretend it was this card. But
Nice.
above that, I've never used this card in my life. So have any of you used this?
It's like what do I want to say, Madame Pomfrey, but it costs a potion lesson. I like it. It's 12 is nothing to sneeze at as far as healing goes. So yeah, I feel like this card finds its way into a couple of my potion decks here and there.
Yeah, I will get better at building these potion decks.
This is like your gateway drug, this Stargrass Salve, because it only costs 1 and it heals 12. It's pretty nice.
Smoke, grass. Anyways, so what's the next card?
The next one is an adventure with Mona.
Yes, we've got Through the Trap Door. So
wait, isn't it your turn though?
Oh my gosh, it is me.
Yeah,
I definitely threw you off there, Mona. My mistake.
No, man,
it's an adventure through the trap door. The effect is your opponent discards the card drawn at the start of each of his or her turns. To solve, the card drawn and discarded at the start of your opponent's turn is a lesson card. Opponent's reward, you take 1 damage. So
yeah, I mean the time when this sucks is when it's actually a lesson card, and then so you use 2 actions to play it, and then you take a damage. It's just like, I don't know. I mean, you could play so many other adventures in its place, but I mean, whatever. It's nice.
Yeah, I like the potion test and potions project and potions homework ones where it's like leaving it up to like you're doing damage until they draw a certain number of lesson cards. This to me seems sort of similar, but not even nearly as effective.
Yeah, this was also a promo. I'm sure for those that didn't know, it came with the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone DVD, 2002-ish. Yeah, I mean, one of those is kind of like high up there, right, in price. I mean, this is sort of like I've seen it for a lot of money, but I think a lot of the promos are kind of going for that. And I don't know where people choose like which ones are going to be that expensive or not, but it's one that I don't own. So
gotcha. Tricky to get your hand on.
Very, very interesting card. I would run this. I would forget. Is there any card that lets you see or rearrange your opponent's the top cards of your opponent's deck in Harry Potter? I know there's in other games, but I don't know in Harry Potter.
Nothing's coming to mind.
The top cards, no. I mean, you could see the cards in your opponent's hand with certain items and stuff, but yeah, not.
I think I would definitely run this if it was an evil person I have, and I'm running the Caught by Snape. I would actually run at least 1 or 2 copies of this because at some point, if you know that your opponent is low on lessons, and Caught by Snape is no longer there, this is pretty sweet. They're losing. They're not drawing cards each turn, basically. So that's pretty brutal.
Yeah,
you have to be more careful of when to play this. But yeah, cool mechanic.
Point. That makes fun. Yeah, depending on when you play it too. Good point.
Right.
So now goes Winter Holiday.
Yep. This one's Mona.
Yeah. Mona. So Winter Holiday is a spell. It costs 9 Transfiguration. Your opponent chooses 3 of his or her lessons in play and discards them. Then you choose 3 of your lessons in play and discard them. And then it says, if either of you have fewer than 3 lessons in play, then you discard them all. So...
yuck.
Yeah, this is totally disgusting. I mean, I guess I don't know. I've never really like understood those cards where like you kind of do this type of damage to yourself, unless it's just like preventing your opponent from doing so much more damage to you, and you don't have anything else. That at that point, it's like, if my lessons aren't doing anything for me, then why have them? You know what I mean? Or like if it's towards the end of the game and you realize that you're kind of losing, and so you're like, it doesn't really matter if I get rid of lessons if it means that they can too. That's really
Yeah.
the only and I think that's where these kind of cards come in, but I just don't run them often because I don't want to do that.
Yeah, same. I'm totally with you. I could see it being handy in the deck where this is like the highest cost card, and it's probably the only really high cost card you have. So that way, when you get to finally play it, all of the cards you discard 3, you're left with 6. You can actually do stuff with those 6 versus your opponent that might be like trying to ramp up to play some higher late level or late game
Right.
cards. But yeah, I'm not really sure.
I think, I mean, I considered playing this card in my stacks because if your opponent is running one shot or stuff like that, they are not necessarily running the most lessons, right, in comparison to you. And also, if you started with Dumbledore or something like that, this costs only 7, right?
Yeah.
And if you have Forbidden Corridor out, then like you're just limiting that your opponent doesn't discard lessons, and maybe discard like a key card that you want to get rid of, like a character or an item. But definitely, it takes a special build to make this work. I always loved the art though. So
Oh yeah,
Totally.
yeah, definitely love that.
Very
then
good.
we have the wooden flute as described in the books, with the owl, and it's all wooden and stuff. It costs 8, but then you can choose up to 3, and it's a spell, even though it's an item. It's a spell, and you can choose up to 3 creatures in play and return them to their owner's hand. So it can be your creatures, your opponent creatures. You return 3 of them, up to 3. So, it doesn't have to be all 3. So interesting. I don't know why I would play this over Spider Exodus. I guess only if I guess if I'm also running creatures, right? Because you wanna target your opponent and not every other creature in play. Do either of you use this card?
I don't use it, but I could see it coming in handy for healing a bunch of your creatures at once. So if your opponent's done multiple damage counters, and you could take 3 right back and then hopefully get them back into play shortly thereafter. But yeah, no, I don't really play this card often.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I could see this, like you were saying, Doug, like if you're returning maybe your owls, for example, where each owl does something for you, like
True.
you've got owls that can get lessons, or owls that can, get other cards, or you can see the top card. If it's a lesson, put it in play. If it isn't, then put it back on top of your deck. So that kind of thing where like if you return them to your hand, then you can replay them using their ability again. But
Maybe I should play it in my owl decks just because also the flute looks like an owl or something on the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of nice.
For the flavor.
Yeah, dope. Yeah, I mean, if you do, let us know how that works.
Yeah.
I personally haven't done that. I haven't played this card, but yeah, I mean, why
That's
not?
a really good idea, definitely. That leads us to our next spell, which is anti-cheating spell. It costs 3 charms lesson power. It reads, look at your opponent's hand. If there are any lesson cards there, choose one of them and discard it. So, they can't cheat on you. No, I'm just kidding. They're not cheating. They just happen to have lessons in their hand. But it's nice. Let's say if they have multicolored deck, you could target a specific lesson and be like, well, you can't even get that into play quite yet. Early game control card. Pretty nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty cut and dry here. I like it.
Yeah.
I played this card. Yeah.
You have McGonagall there, looking different in every card that she appears. So
Right.
we can move on to the Bewitching Snowball.
Yes, Bewitch Snowballs is a spell. It costs 5 charms, and you've got the twins there throwing some snowballs at Voldemort that's just hiding behind Quirrell's turban. Do 3 damage to your opponent or to a creature of your choice, then draw a card. It's always nice to be able to do something and then draw a card without having to waste an action. So I've definitely run this in some of my charms decks. I like it.
Definitely. I think it's funny how like the snowballs seem to be pummeling Voldemort in the face.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Maybe he likes it.
Yeah, maybe.
Well,
our next card
balls to the
is
face.
one of the most popular cards I feel like of this entire game.
yeah. So from
Yes.
balls to bats, and we have the black bat for 4 beast, care for magical creatures. And when you play this card, you do 2 damage to your opponent. It also hits for 2 damage each turn, and it has a health of 1. So yeah, people love this card. You get some damage in quickly. It's cheap. and it keeps damaging your opponent if they leave it on. So simple and
Yeah. Yep.
It's
I
a favorite for a
definitely.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this card. I do run 4 in my creature deck.
yeah.
I would run more if I could. It's definitely one of those that you just stack them up, because 2 damage sucks, but like right away you do 2 damage, and so that's definitely dope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Definitely.
I should put some bats in my owl deck.
Do it.
Let's see. I think that takes us to our next card. It's Bucking Broomstick, 7 Quidditch power cost, and it reads: do 3 damage to your opponent. Then, if your opponent has any cards in his or her hand, he or she chooses 2 of them and discards them. 1 if he or she only has 1. So again, like Mona says, do something and then something else.
Right.
Yeah, powerful Quidditch spell.
Yeah. With Dumbledore out only 5, it's pretty
Mhm.
intense. You
Yeah,
discard
that's
from and
intense.
do 3 damage. So pretty cool card. Yeah, for this overpowered type.
Definitely.
So wanna talk about some cakes?
Yes, let's.
Also, I was really confused when you said the name of this card. I totally misheard you.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, so
Oh, you didn't mishear anything.
what about your cakes, Mona? Talk
All right, let's talk about some cauldron cakes. It costs 1 potion. It is a healing spell. Choose up to 2 non-healing cards from your discard pile and put them on the bottom of your deck in any order, then draw a card. So pretty cut and dry. Nice. I do like this card. I probably don't run it as much as I should, but I don't have a lot of potions decks. I'm working on it.
Fair enough. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this is a great card. I really do like this one a lot. I'm sure Emilio's a fan, right?
super cute. I don't run it, but I do love the
Fair.
the cake candy fantasy here.
Yeah, that art is looks delectable. Um, but I guess that takes us to our next spell with Emilio.
Which is Charms Accident.
Yes.
So we have to get into the accidents here. So 2 charms spell, and you do 2 damage to your opponent, and then you may choose a non-healing item in play and return it to its owner's hand. So yeah, pretty simple. Do 2 damage, return an item. If your opponent has expensive items, that it's nice to set them back a little bit. If you're
Bullseye,
Huh?
Right.
like a bullseye or something.
Yeah, and the thing with this is, I don't know exactly if I would play this, but it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the art's funny. Is that like Seamus Finnegan or something setting a quill on fire? I'm not sure who
Yeah,
that's
with the
supposed to be.
Wingardium Leviosa that he
Yep.
burns
Mhm.
somehow burns it. Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
definitely. So yeah, interesting card. I don't play it myself, but like Mona said, that would be a shocker if your opponent has a bullseye in play and you send it right back to their hand.
Yep.
Now we have one of the promos for the starter deck.
Yes, and it's one I'm missing badly. So listener, let me know if you see one for sale. No, I'm just kidding. But no, for real. The Chimera, it's a gorgeous artwork. I love this card. But it's a creature. It does 4 damage each turn and has a health of 2. I love when they're that simple. There's really nothing more to it. But this artwork is the head of a lion, the body of a goat, I believe, and the tail of a dragon. Quite the chimera. I think chimeras across various fantasy literature vary in different ways, but I do like this portrayal.
Mm-hmm.
Such a missed opportunity. Why does it have only? It should have a 3rd effect, right? 3 things or something.
Right.
Yeah,
Good point.
well,
That makes sense.
This is like, I think it's like this show, like we run out of a little bit of gas by the end, and the designers are just like putting everything in the rares, and then in the comments like, let's just put a chimera.
Yep, exactly. We
Cost
need a
7.
filler card. Blue
Who
wig.
cares?
You know.
Oh, shit. Yeah,
So-
exactly.
We can go to the dog bite though.
Yes.
All right. Dog Bite is a spell. It costs 4 magical creatures. Choose a creature in play. That creature does damage to your opponent equal to that creature's printed damage each turn. So if you had like a Chimera in play and it costs 7, then it does that 7 damage.
If you have a chimera
so...
in play, you lost the game because it's a horrible card.
Yeah. If you have a Chimera in your deck, then just throw your deck away.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, JK.
No. Balance. You make the decks you want. But
Exactly.
Yes,
imagine
of
being dog
course.
and playing fluffy, and then like, Mona comes and has like 4 dog bites out of her, sleeve, and just like kills you with it.
It is true. I do have 4 dog bites in my sleeve currently.
Just for that occasion that Fluffy appears. No, really, really cool, right? Like it has an A being bitten by Fluffy, so it's adequate, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So then we have my favorite card, Art, in the set.
Yes.
And that's Every Flavor Beans, which is not a spell. It's a candy, though. And basically, for only one transfiguration, you reveal the top 2 cards of your deck and put any lessons in play that are revealed. So that's it. And you discard any non-lesson cards. And you draw a card. So why is this not a Quidditch card if it makes so many things, right? But it's a transfiguration spell. I personally like this spell a lot. It's, if you set it up, you can set it up with things like, I think it's like practice session or something like that. If you're running Quidditch or something that allows you to arrange your deck, you get 2 lessons in play, you get to draw a card, and you get to play candy. If you're someone like me that just wants to play cards they like, then you're trying to figure out how to play them. So yeah, I love the art. It's the original Birdie Bots. I love the little jingles at the end of the bag.
Yes, so dope. I do like this art a lot.
Same here. It's fantastic. And I like this card. I just wish you didn't discard the ones that weren't lessons because what is it? Wizard Crackers or something very similar where you reveal a card and if it's a lesson you put into play, otherwise it goes to your hand. I'd much rather it go to my hand than just like damage, but it is what it is. You do get to draw that other card, so it makes up for it.
Right.
But you can talk about the Fire Protection Potion.
Yes, this is our next spell. It's Fire Protection Potion. It costs 3 potion power, and it reads, do 3 damage to your opponent during your opponent's next turn. Prevent all damage done to you by spell cards. Man, I need to play more of these. But that's the thing. I also probably would play this on my turn, and then but come my opponent's next turn, they do damage, and I forget that I'm even preventing it. So it's like, I just got to keep track of that.
That is one of the hardest with those types of like spells where it's like you played on yours and then like for some reason their turn comes and it seems like it's forever ago that you just played a card. Yeah, it's like wait, all the time.
Yeah,
or your opponent just doesn't play the spells that do damage to you, right? It's just it's
exactly,
a weird mechanic.
Right.
True.
That leads us to our next spell with Mona.
Okay, that is Fungiface Potion. And it costs 4 potion lessons. It's a spell. To play this card, discard 1 of your potion lessons from play. Do 6 damage to your opponent or to a creature of your choice. So it's always nice to have the option. It only costs 4 and it does do 6 damage. I don't play this only because of the having to get rid of 1 lesson, but I will consider it, and I will try to work more with potion cards for sure.
Yeah, the only reason I don't play this card is just because the art creeps me out, but also I know it's just mushrooms growing on his face, but it reminds me like, man, I'm glad I'm no longer in my adolescent years because that was not fun.
Yeah, and I guess that when you remove the mushrooms, they take part of your face out. Like, what's the flavor of this? Like, damaging you?
Right.
I'm not sure.
But really weird, and we can move on because it is a very disturbing art.
Yeah.
Oh, and also Goyle or Crab, whoever that is, looks like Dumb and Dumber. It looks like one of those characters. Anyways, we have the Nut coming up. Growing up, I always say
Knuts, yes.
I don't know, because I was a kid. And it only costs 1, and it gives you an extra action next turn if you discard it, right? So, just to summarize the money, you play only 1 per turn. It stays. It has to stay in play until the start of your next turn, and then it activates. You discard it, and you get an extra action. But if you have Draco Malfoy, you play it for free, and you're basically moving a free action for your next turn. So
right, yeah, that's
it can
pretty
be useful
cool.
then.
That makes sense.
Otherwise, I wouldn't play it.
Yeah. I
don't know, Mon. How do you play it without Draco Malfoy Slytherin?
I do play this and Sickle in my Charms deck. This is really kind of helpful. Like I do like sometimes I'll get it like right at the beginning, and then I'll be able to play it using it to get more lessons in play, so that I can get the wand shop and then continue on moving some of the heavy hitters. So yeah, I do like the Knut.
The Knut. I think they even pronounce it like that in the PlayStation 1 game when you're in Gringotts.
And
go
also,
get the Knuts. I'm like,
yeah,
why?
and you're like, oh, okay.
Just the nuts.
I guess that's what we're doing now.
I guess.
Yeah.
Just the Nuts. Happy Pride.
Yes.
So what are we? Just a question about this. But you have an action that you're using to play this, and then you have an action next turn. Why would you play that? I just don't get it.
Right.
You know,
Anything.
So I understand that, right? So like you use this as an action, you play it and then you discard it. So like so it's almost like you're getting rid of one for the other, but I think
Right.
it's so that you can play multiple cards during one
Yeah,
turn.
that makes sense. That's true.
So like this has really helped me when I have an opponent that plays a Caught by Snape. So I can play all 3 lessons at once and I don't have to wait until the next turn to play the last lesson, right? So like in order for me to get rid of Caught by Snape, I have to play 3 lessons, right?
Yeah.
And
you're
so
moving one action to another turn, I guess.
Exactly. So you're just replacing it. It's not like it's really giving you, it does give you an action, but essentially it doesn't because it costs an action. And so you're just sort of saying, hey, I'm going to use this action during my next turn.
Yeah.
And I'm going to
moves an action to a turn.
Yeah.
That's
I guess
pretty
for
cool.
me, I just play with Malfoy. Yeah. But yeah.
I mean, and that probably works even better maybe because, you kind of have like the ability to do that with any item as opposed to just this one. But yeah, it just kind of seems because I start with Snape for that deck, and that deck is specific to Snape because Snape gives me that potions, the potions power, and so it just kind of works like that. But yeah, if it wasn't for Snape and that combination, maybe I wouldn't use it like that. So
that's fair.
Definitely. Now we have another cool card, another candy card.
One of Emilio's favorites. We got Licorice Wand spell. It's candy. It only costs 1 charms power, and it reads, do 2 damage to your opponent, then draw a card. Licorice Wand isn't really a wand, so you don't have to worry about it replacing any existing wands in play. But pretty nice card. I actually really like that.
Yeah, it is. It's a good one. It's kind of straight, cut and dry, right? Do 2 damage and draw a card. I dig it.
Yeah.
That's some really stale licorice, but yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
True that. Okay, next we've got a Quidditch spell, Loop the Loops. It costs 8 Quidditch power. Do 4 damage to your opponent, then draw 4 cards. So I mean, it's fine. I don't personally use it. I like that you could do 4 damage and draw 4 cards, but I also don't at the same time because that's a lot of cards to draw. So, especially if you don't really need to. And, at the end of the day, drawing on actions or whatever, I mean, you're really kind of depleting your own deck. And so you want to make sure that you kind of don't do that if you don't have to. So
totally.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting card. And then we move to another interesting card. Cost 6. It's a spell, but it's a potion. It's the Manegro potion. And basically discard one of your potion lessons in play, and you do that much damage. Count the number of potions lessons in play. So that means potions lessons, not power, right? So just the actual lessons that you have.
Right.
Yep.
Do that damage to your opponent. Then choose one of your potions lessons and discard it. Yeah, it's a card. It does things. I would never use this card.
Yeah, especially considering most of my potion, or it wants lessons. Most of my potion power is coming from cauldrons and stuff. So like, I think there's a revival card that's very similar where you're discarding lessons to do damage, I think. So maybe there's like some kind of deck idea there, but I can't even put my finger on it. But I have a feeling this card might be one you want to revisit in the future.
Yeah.
All right, and that leads us to our next card, which is Muffling Draught. It costs 3 potions power, and it's a spell that reads, during your opponent's next turn, he or she can't use actions to play spell cards. So yeah, you're doing some limiting to your opponent there. I don't play this, but man, I kind of want to now.
Yeah, good card. I mean, it definitely prevents your opponent from doing what they probably are setting themselves up to do, playing spell cards. So it's nice.
Yeah, evil against Quidditch too.
Yeah, you have to be as always, check that your opponent has spells. If it's an item deck or character deck, then this is less powerful. And Hermione's looking fully like she wants to talk to the manager face here. Very interesting art.
Very Karen-like.
Yeah, it's Karen speaking to her manager. So what about the Outpost, Mona?
Yeah, so Outpost is really cut and dry. It is a spell. It costs 6 care magical creatures, and it says draw 3 cards. And
All
that's
about
it.
resource building. Yep. I guess the owls are dropping off cards from the sky.
Yep, that's it. Exactly. Some birthday cards there.
Yes.
Brooms that people don't know are brooms, like in the
Please
first movie.
let one of these be the promo
What is
CD.
this? They edited that, I think. I
Oh my
remember
God.
like them saying like, what could it be? And it's like obviously a broom. And now that
Yeah.
the newer version doesn't say that. I don't know, maybe I just imagined it. But we
Oh, that's
can move
hilarious.
into other memories that are maybe false, and that's the photo album. So
Yes.
we have lots of pictures here. It costs 5. It's a charms item for once, and before each of your turns, you draw a card. So you're drawing extra cards each turn. You're drawing 2 cards per turn. I personally like this card. If your deck has a quick strategy to it, 1 damage each turn is not really that much, and you're getting more resources. So I play variants of these cards in any game I play, basically, because this is a very basic card. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't play this one too much, but I definitely understand the value of it. But it's funny, our next card is actually number 69. Nice. But no, it's also appropriate because
There
it's
you go. Happy Pride.
the other gargoyle. We got the sandstone gargoyle this time. When
Yep.
sandstone gargoyle does damage to your opponent, if he or she doesn't have any creatures in play, it does 2 more damage to him or her. So the base damage is 1 and a health of 2. But like we said, if they don't have creatures in play, that damage is 3. Get a bunch of sandstone and marble gargoyles in play, and your opponent doesn't have creatures, they are not going to have a fun time.
Right.
Definitely.
Yep. Yeah, really good to play this one and marble at the same time. Dope.
Totally.
All right, next we've got a school broom that looks very old and just the worst type of broom. It's an item and it costs 4 Quidditch. It does provide 1 Quidditch power. When you play this card, draw a card. If you play this card and you already have a broom in play, discard the old one. I haven't played this. Maybe you guys have.
I haven't. There's so many brooms to choose from. This one isn't one that I'm choosing often.
Right?
Yeah, I don't do Quidditch. So
Fair.
I have no idea.
And this shirt that I'm wearing today is like totally Quidditch. And it's just like hating on Quidditch.
Team
I'm all,
Quidditch.
yo,
I'm just hitting Quidditch on the card game, not the actual thing. The actual
Gotcha.
thing is much
Cool.
worse. But no, let's go to. It's a bad joke, sorry. But let's go to the next card. It's Scribbly Force.
Yes.
Like Scribble Force, and it costs 7. It's a transfiguration card. They're very surprised something's going on there with that quill, and you choose 2 of your opponent's cards in play, and they choose 1 of them to discard them and 1 to return to their hand. So once again, I'm not a fan of cards that give your opponent options unless it's like the Neville torturing Neville card.
Right.
For 7, you should just be able to, I feel, discard at least 1 of them and then return the other to a hand or something like that. So yeah, it's a common for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of expensive just to do that.
Right.
It's like there are some others where, I would rather play like picking on Neville or something like that.
Yeah,
totally.
So yeah, whatever.
And that leads us to our next potion. It's Sleeping Potion. It costs 4 potion power. It's a spell. Do 4 damage to your opponent. During your opponent's next turn, he or she can't use actions to play adventure cards. So we saw a little bit of that earlier, but this also deals some damage. So pretty nice.
Yep, definitely good. One of the good potion cards to have that doesn't make you get rid of lessons. So yeah. Okay, next we've got Switching Spell, which costs 4 Transfiguration. It's a spell, and it says choose an item in play and discard it, then search your deck. You may take an item card from your deck, show it to your opponent, and put it into your hand, then shuffle. So you're essentially switching item for item.
Yeah, it seems like item
But in
decks
play.
would go
Yeah.
hand in hand with like transfiguration cards. There's a couple of transfiguration cards that I feel like work well with items. Do you have transfiguration lessons in your item decks, Emilio?
Well, yeah, there was one that when I had the clock with the Dumbledore.
Right.
Dumbledore's watch, yeah.
So yeah, I had their mirror, and it was a whole mess of a deck. But yes, I've had. I wish once again, this is reminiscent of an old Magic card that did something that you sacrifice an artifact in magic is artifact, and you bring any artifact from your deck. I
Okay.
wish this did that. So it's like you could do like some cool stuff. You can bring the Sorcerer's Stone out or something like that. It could be made from the top 7 cards. I don't know. It's just a very underwhelming card. You're paying 2 actions to search for an item, right? Because you play an item, that's an action. You play this spell, it's an action. So just a bad card in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like for it to go in play instead of to the hand. I mean, that would make it an actual switching spell, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, but that's what we have. And then we
Next.
have Troll Boogies. It's a 3 care for magical creatures cards, and you have like a troll resting, like he did something very, very extraneous, and he's very tired now. And Harry has the boogers on his wand. This is inappropriate, but whatever. It's a spell, and you can choose a non-healing item in play and return it to its owner's hand. So Harry returns the boogie wand. I don't know. Another card that I think the flavor is not really that right.
Right.
This kind of underwhelming.
I kind of agree with you, like you said, with your sentiment where Wizards of the Coast was like, we're running out of ideas. We're at the last couple cards of the set. But what's funny is this last one in the set is one I run many instances of in various Transfiguration decks I have. But this last card is called Vanishing Step, which is also funny. I think it was the base set, or maybe it was Quidditch Cup. The last card was Vanish. But Vanishing Step is a spell. It reads, during your opponent's next turn, he or she gets 1 fewer action. As we've discussed, actions are priceless in this game, so to limit your opponent, you could really just set yourself up for them to only do one thing, and then you could kind of maybe, if you have items that and the money, all that stuff. But yeah, this is a great card. I play it often.
It's a brutal card. It's amazing. For
the price, 1 Transfiguration power, that's crazy. You could play this as soon as you start the game, as long as you have 1 lesson in play, or if you're playing as McGonagall,
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things like that. This has actually really come in handy with like my McGonagall deck, where I do, because I run 75 of these in my deck. And so like 100%.
Out of the 40 cards, 75.
Yes, exactly. And so, like just it being like one of the first cards that I pull, I'm like, oh, dope. So like if you wanted to put 2 lessons, because like at the beginning of the game, we're all looking to put lessons, right? So we can actually play these cards. And so just to be able to stop your opponent from doing that, it is brutal. And also, if there were actual Vanishing Step and you fall, I just feel like that's gonna be so painful right there. Just looking at the art, I'm like, yo, look at you. Like your knee is just shattered.
Yeah,
you might die if you fall from there. There's no handles.
To the groin, your face planting. It's just gonna be brutal. Yeah,
it is brutal.
But what's awesome is we did it again. We've covered another full set.
Well, actually, there's another card here. This is something that many people do not notice about this set. In the Care of Magical Creatures lesson, I said this is the first time that they add, instead of 3 paws, it has 4 little fingers.
No way.
No, I'm just making that up.
I was gonna say, wait. I believe you for a second. God damn it! I'm too gullible.
I'm literally looking at it and I'm like, really interesting. And then I'm like, but I know that like that's okay.
That can't be.
Like,
God damn it. We get trolled by Emilio at the end.
Happy Pride?
Yeah.
I'm just like, what?
Typical. No, but that's the thing. We covered 75 out of 80. The last 5 cards, as always, are just lesson cards. We got Care of Magical Creatures, Charms, Potions, Quidditch, and Transfiguration. But that's another expansion set in the book, you guys. I think it's about time we do some plugs and wrap this one up. Thanks so much for listening. One thing I do want to shout out before we talk about our individual projects is we have a Gmail account. It's rennervatepodcast@gmail.com if you want to get in touch with us. We also have a Facebook group. All of our links and stuff will be in our episode description. So definitely head over to our social media channels and check that stuff out. But for now, let's see. How about Emilio? Where can our listeners find you on the internet?
You can find me in anywhere in my channel. It's Nostalgia Collective Investments, talking about many dead games, but mostly, things like Neopets, Harry Potter, Middle Earth. There's too many to list. But if it's dead, I probably cover it. If it's tied to a big franchise. And also in the MetaSu Discord, since I'm a judge for the MetaSu or MetaSuologist, or in the MetaSu channel because I also officiate matches. So you can hear me commenting on matches there. Or if you live in California, no, don't That's it.
Fair enough.
That's it for me. What about you, Mona?
Okay, so you can find me on my YouTube channel, Into the Flu. I also recently got into the TikTok world. So TikTok and Instagram at Harry Potter Morsi, you can find me. I also have recently started working with MuggleNet as a columnist for them. And so if you go to the MuggleNet website, which is mugglenet.com, under the Quibbler, you'll find my column Into the Flu. And so there I write about the Harry Potter trading card game as well as old school merchandise that kind of share the same style as my YouTube channel. So I just kind of like write about it and hopefully just kind of get the word out there that this is a phenomenal game. And
you're getting paid.
And I'm getting yes.
This is a real thing, people. It's not out of it comes with devotion, but it comes with money. So congrats, Mona, because that's a really sweet gig.
Oh, and Mona, do you want to tell our listeners about the league you're working on? We can have links to your Discord and stuff in our description.
Yes, I would love for any of you to join the league if you're interested in webcam play. So you'll play with your physical deck.
Let's go.
Yeah, so this is different than like what's already out there, which is, a lot of like playing on Untap and Lackey, which is a phenomenal platform as well. I know that there's just a lot of people who play different ways. And so I personally enjoy playing with your physical deck. And so I'll put a link in the description of the Discord so you can join it. And that is for anybody worldwide. I've kind of done my best to try to accommodate most time zones. So we play Wednesday morning, 8 a.m. my time, which is MST, which happens to work for the players in Japan and other parts of Europe. And then Thursday, 5 p.m. my time, which happens to work for others, EST, etc. So if it's something that you're interested in, then please go there. If you don't know how to play, there's also a link in there of my video on how to play the game. And if you don't have a deck, then we've got you covered on that too. I'm in the middle of building decks for as inexpensive as I can make them, just so that people who don't have the money to buy lots and boxes and all this kind of stuff, they could at least benefit from playing the game. That's the whole point, and that's what I think all of us want, is just for people to play the game. So if you're interested in that, then please head over and see if it's for you.
We'll be around at some point, me and Doug, and we'll be able to play once we have the time. But we definitely are excited for this league. We all want to get in those live camps and touch our decks so we can play with all of you and have a good time with Harry Potter cards.
Definitely. Yep. Oh man, definitely check that out, listener. You get to see us play our lesson decks and just nothing but adventure decks. No, I'm just kidding. But no, also I'm available or findable on the internet at Almost Better Than Silence. It's a podcast I host with my friends. It's a video game show. If you like video games, definitely give it a listen. Hopefully you'll find something up your alley there. I also Twitch stream under that handle, ABT Silence, twitch.tv. ABT Silence is where I'm playing some Harry Potter trading card game with my wife from time to time, but mainly just Fall Guys and other just goofy antics, all sorts of craziness over there. So definitely head over there if you're interested. But that's going to do it.
It's a bunch of fun. I have to say, like, I joined Doug's stream like reluctantly at first. I was like, what is this game? Why is there like beans all over? Why do they wear funny things? But it's so entertaining, and Doug really hosts a really, really fun stream. Also, his wife is a moderator, so you get to talk with both of them. And I'm normally there too. So, catch us there. It's really fun. I really, really recommend it. Really fun.
Yes, I'm gonna make it there one of these nights. I know it's usually late for my old ass, but I will make sure that I make it there to support whatever it is that Doug does and Emilio. It's always going to be phenomenal. So check it out for sure.
That's how I feel about these two. It's been such a fun catching up with you guys and talking about this expansion set. I'm looking forward to the next one. The next one's actually going to be Chamber of Secrets. We're probably going to have to break that up into two parts because it's just such a large amount of cards. And we might even have a few surprise episodes in between there. So keep an eye on your feed from us. But yeah, if you can also leave us a review, that really helps. So that's going to do it for this week. I guess we can all say mischief managed.
Mischief managed.
Managed.